10 years ago, in 2006, Final Fantasy Versus 13 was announced alongside Final Fantasy 13 for the PlayStation 3. At the time, Final Fantasy 12 wasn't even out yet in North America, and we hadn't even been fully phased out of the PlayStation 2. We would get Final Fantasy 12, 13, and 14 before Square saw fit to re-announce the project, now dubbed Final Fantasy 15. Originally conceptualized and directed by Tetsuya Nomura and many from the Kingdom Hearts team, in 2012 the game was given a new development team and led by Hajime Tabata, who had previously worked on titles like Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy Type 0. Alongside Tabata as director was series veteran Shinji Hashimoto as producer. Other series veterans like Hiroyuki Ito and Yoshinori Kitase were absent from the project. Final Fantasy XV was developed with a custom-made Luminous engine, which was previously used in Square's tech demo Agni's Philosophy and the original 1.0 version of Final Fantasy XIV, to its drastic failure. On 15, the engine runs well enough, but the game is still present with the occasional glitches and bugs, some even requiring a restart of the console. All this said, the game runs mostly well, with very few noticeable frame rate dips and, in general, keeps the game running smooth. For the first time in the single-player main series since arguably Final Fantasy III, the story is not the core focus of the game. Instead, the game slows it down quite considerably to give you time to truly immerse yourself in the massive open world that the first two-thirds of the game present you with. The story takes a backseat to the world building that side quests and exploration can offer. You can always skip the optional material and plow on through the main scenario, but doing so will cause you to miss out on quite a lot of content that you might otherwise have greatly appreciated. Playing through the story alone might see you finish the adventure in under 20 hours, but side quests will grant you with dozens of hours of play. For gamers who truly want to get immersed in the world that Final Fantasy XV has built, this works excellently. But for those Final Fantasy fans who put their passion into the storytelling the series is known for, they might find that they'll reach the final climax of the plot just as it really starts to get good. Perhaps due to the open world nature of the first two-thirds of the game, but all of the story-heavy climaxes are shoved into the final act of the game, making it feel kind of like a lopsided adventure. It's disappointing that after showing such aptitude for crafting a well-written and well-paced story in Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward, an MMO with an open world comparatively as big as this one, they were unable to do it here. For better or worse, the entire first half of the story is all slow build-up, and the entire second half of the story is all climax. The story itself is easy to follow in a broad sense. Noctis, the son of King Regis, has his wedding road trip sidetracked when he discovers that the Niflheim Empire has destroyed his home city of Insomnia. Now tasked with finding the arms of previous kings and attaining the powers of awe-inspiring summons known as Astrals, he must join together with his best friends to journey to his bride-to-be, Lunafreya, and use his royalty-gifted powers to put a stop to the darkness being spread by the Empire once and for all. It's classic Final Fantasy, taking more plot inspiration from games before Final Fantasy VII than after it. Looking at the story as a sum of its parts, it's truly a realized modern take on classic story elements. The problem isn't in the story's themes and mythos, but how it tells it. Along with Final Fantasy XV comes the movie Kingsglaive, and while the movie is enjoyable, it leaves a gaping hole in the game's story that perhaps begs the question of whether the movie should have been made at all to begin with. With characters and plot points absolutely relevant to the story, Kingsglaive is almost required viewing if you truly want to get invested in the game's story. The fractured storytelling through Kingsglaive, and the game's own extremely weak pacing in the open world segment will probably leave you not caring all that much about it until later, and instead you're just going to want to travel around and enjoy all the side content. Most of the supporting characters beyond the main cast have kind of a weak presence in this game too. Lunafreya is dubbed as the main heroine of the game, but she's rarely around, and other NPCs like Iris and Talkit were far more genuine and interesting as people. Some minor antagonists that had the potential to be far more significant only appear in one cutscene before never showing up again. The core cast of Noctis, Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus is quite strong, however, and their relationship is what truly holds this game together as a wondrous experience, even when the overarching story fails to meet your expectations. The Anime Brotherhood fleshes out their backstory even more and is a genuinely well-written series that's worth the watch. This party of four come to life with banter and conversation as you explore and fight, and without a doubt in my mind, they are the most relatable human cast of characters in the recent series, especially after the loss of self-agency that we've had to experience in Lightning's character since her sequels released. Regardless of how it affects the story, the open-world atmosphere is beautifully crafted. There is always something to explore, always something on the map that's piqued your interest. Riding around in the car, while it's mostly an on-rails experience, is absolutely enjoyable and gives me vibes of boating around in the Wind Waker, complete with a full radio of memorable tracks from previous Final Fantasy titles that you can play in the car or on foot. The game is able to keep you relaxed but not bored as you explore. It's uplifting, it's chill, it's overall pretty great. There can be a few rough spots, like there tend to be some invisible walls over rocks that you just wish you could jump over, but you can't. And also picking up items is occasionally a hassle when sometimes the game just wants you to jump instead. Back from Final Fantasy XII are the hunts, which are offered around this time through tipsters located at every restaurant. While a great form of optional content, it's disappointing that you can't accept more than any one hunt at a single time, something 12 never had a problem with. Other side quests focus around actual characters and go a long way into making the world more interesting and lived in. It feels real, and no matter how mundane some of the errands you might need to run can get from time to time, the questing in this game feels fun and is immensely rewarding. The final third of the game forgoes the open world for a more linear and story-driven experience to close off the narrative. Aside from one area during this portion overstaying its welcome a little too long, the linear part of the game is actually exceptionally done. If Square could mesh the story pacing of this portion of the game with the open world of the first half, we would have a classic on our hands. The progression may be straightforward, but the areas themselves less resemble the hallway nature of 13, and more so the short bursted exploration of small spread areas like in 7 through 9. Those who are playing Final Fantasy 15 for the open world and side questing probably won't find the final third all that appealing, but those that are more invested in the lore will find that there's a lot to appreciate during this segment. No matter what, the game will eventually open up again, and you can spend the post-game roaming Lucis like you did before. Combat is excellent and easy to praise. To attack, you select a weapon on your D-pad and hold the circle button down to let out a string of attacks. This seems straightforward enough until you have to dodge or parry attacks, which cost you MP. To restore your MP, you need to warp strike to a safe location before jumping back into the fray. This constant MP management is excellent and flows extremely well with the fluidity of Noct's movements. Not only that, but teaming up with your party members or giving them spells to cast is an extra boon that makes the experience flashy, fun, and strategic at the same time. Magic is drawn from draw points, calling back to their role in Final Fantasy VIII. Once you mix your elements together, they can be crafted into massive spells that not only damage your enemies, but the environment and your own party as well. There's a lot to do in the world aside from just hunting monsters and checking off side quests. Treasures dot the world, along with spots for Noctis and his friends to sleep and spend the night. The game makes you choose between camping out in the wild for a full meal to buff you the next day, or staying at the inn for increased experience multipliers. While camping, Ignis can cook the party meals and level his own cooking abilities. Prompto shares the pictures he takes constantly throughout the adventure, Gladiolus will offer up supplies and items he finds while scavenging, and you can take Noctis to any nearby fishing spot to catch fish and you can improve his own skills. If you're bored, you can head to any diner and spend time playing Justice Monsters 5, and when you're not doing that, you can breeze around on chocobos or explore some of the superbly designed optional dungeons. Final Fantasy 15, for all of its issues surrounding storytelling and pacing, is still an experience that makes me really hopeful for the future of the series. After rather apathetic releases like Lightning Returns, it's refreshing to see a game that's been crafted with so much love and passion for the quality of its product. Composer Yoko Shimomura of Kingdom Hearts and Xenoblade fame lends a stunning score that will go down as one of the most memorable soundtracks in the main series. The game may have been marred by too many changes during development, but it manages to capture the core of what Final Fantasy is. To be bold. To offer new and unique experiences that radiate with the warmth of the series. And most importantly, to take us on a journey.